You can never whip these boys if you don't keep you and them separate. I found that out in Birmingham. You've got to keep the white and the black separate.
Segregation is the enforced separation of different racial groups in a country, community, or establishment. Racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior. In 1607, the British crossed the Atlantic Ocean and settled in North America and colonized in Jamestown. In 1774, the United States declared freedom from England and became their own country. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and more founding fathers decided that there should be 5 ideals that should run the country: rights, equality, opportunity, liberty, and democracy. These ideals were founded for all men, but at this time, slavery wasn't considered bad and didn't include black people. In the North, people were gaining new thoughts of freedom for all men, black people included. While in the South, most of the terrain was perfect for farming, and those are called plantations. These owners, mainly white men, owned slaves to either work on plantations to pick crops or work in the house for the family. These slaves weren't treated very kindly. They got whipped, beaten, and sometimes killed for doing small mistakes. Slaves were treated less than, if not equal to, livestock during the 1800s. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln announced that he was running for president, which caused much trouble among the people because tensions were rising of whether slavery should be abolished or not. Lincoln tried his best to keep tensions low so there would be no outbreak of war. However, his attempts were futile because in 1861, the Civil War broke out. The Civil War was the most bloody war that Americans have fought in history. Over 620,000 men were killed or either fatally wounded. By 1865, the war ended and slavery was abolished. Also, Abraham was sadly assassinated in Ford's Theater, leaving a large legacy for others to live up to. Jim Crow laws were put in place before slavery ended, but were more enforced after abolishment. The laws enforced segregation on any platform, such as separate drinking fountains, though there were African Americans who had to sit on buses, which leads to the Montgomery Bus Boycott. The true meaning of America's founding ideals is continuously being debated and redefined. The Montgomery Bus Boycott took place in 1955 as a result of an existing truth that America's founding ideals were not being realized by African Americans. During the Montgomery Bus Boycott, some of these same ideals were violated. Ultimately, the legacy of the boycott would help redefine the true meaning of America's founding ideals. Rosa Parks grew up in Alabama with her parents as an only child. As a young child, she was used to having to be segregated from all the other white children because it was the law for colored children to be segregated from whites with many things. When Rosa was 42, she boarded a bus not knowing that she would change history. Rosa was going on the public bus for work since her family being colored, they were forced to live farther outside the city. The bus that brought her into the inner city had arranged seating with blacks in the back and white people in the front. But since she and a few other colored folk were the only people riding, she was able to sit up front. On one of the stops closer into the city, a white man boarded on the bus. He asked Rosa to get up from her seat despite there being many open. Rosa ignored him, which made him angrier. The bus driver told Rosa to move to the back of the bus or she would be arrested. Rosa didn't move, and at the end she was arrested and sent to jail. She was in jail for 1 day, and that made her realize that there needed to be a change.
Home December 1st, 1955, about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I boarded the bus downtown Montgomery on Court Square. As the bus proceeded out of town, on the third stop, the white passengers had filled the front of the bus. There would be 2 or 3 men standing. He looked back and asked that the seat where I had taken, along with 3 other persons, one in the seat with me, and 2 across the aisle was seated. He demanded the seat that we were occupying. The other passengers very reluctantly, gave up their seats, but I refused to do so.
When Rosa got home, she told her neighbors of what happened to her and how she wanted to change how things worked. She boycotted the bus system and walked every day to work. She and the rest of her community protested with her, wanting a change for their rights. Many white people made it hard for them, tempt them to come back to the buses and make it easier for them, but they did not guarantee the right for black people to sit where they want. But the black people kept peacefully protesting against the unfair treatment they were receiving. By the early 1955, Alabama passed the law that the bus segregation would be made illegal and all people can sit freely on the bus whenever they want.
I was arrested on December 1st, 1955 for refusing to stand up on the orders of the bus driver after the white seats had been occupied in the front. And of course I was not in the front of the bus, as many people have written and spoken that I got on the bus and took a front seat, but I did not. I took a seat that was just back of where the white people were sitting. And in fact, the last seat, and the man was next to the window, and I took an aisle seat, and there were two women across. And we went on undisturbed until about the second or third stop, when some white people boarded the bus and left one man standing. And when the driver noticed him standing, he told us to stand up and let him have those seats. He referred to them as front seats. And when the other three people, after some hesitancy, stood up, he wanted to know if I was going to stand. I told him I was not, and he told me he would have me arrested. I told him he may do that.
In present-day America, black people have more freedoms than what others did in earlier history. African American people still experience some racism today that has a harmful impact on those people. Although there are no laws against segregation, it is still evident that people section themselves off based on what they look like or what they do. In the United States, the people who usually have more power are the white males of the country, leaving colored men to have the lesser paying jobs. Although there are no laws against this, it is obvious that there are still some people with the same ideologies as of those in the early 1900s in the United States of America. The work that Rosa Parks did in the 1950s was important for the African American people because it helped shape equal rights that the founding fathers set at the creation of the country. By having simple rights as where one can sit on the bus was a catalyst for the civil rights movement by others in the southern states and across the country. All her hard work has paid off for the entire country, and it shows in present-day America. However, in America, there are still unfair treatments of black people, and you can support them by visiting naacp.org. Thank you for listening to our presentation on the Montgomery bus boycott.